Imagine a wall of water, taller than any skyscraper, roaring down a narrow valley at breakneck speed, obliterating everything in its path in mere minutes. This isn't a biblical flood, it's the stark, terrifying reality born from human ambition and a catastrophic miscalculation. In the mountainous heart of northeastern Italy, a monument to engineering prowess was destined to become a tomb for thousands. This is the story of the Vajont Dam, a structure designed to harness nature, that instead unleashed an apocalypse. The year is the late 1950s. Italy, still rebuilding from the ravages of World War II, was gripped by a fervor for progress, for industry, for a brighter future powered by hydroelectricity. The chosen location, the rugged Vajont Valley, a dramatic gorge carved by the Vajont River, nestled between towering peaks. Here, a private utility company, SOD, envisioned a dam of unprecedented scale. It would be an architectural marvel, a slender concrete arch rising an astonishing 262 meters from the valley floor, at the time, the second highest dam in the world. Its purpose was simple: create a vast reservoir to power a series of downstream hydroelectric plants, bringing jobs, energy, and prosperity to the region. Construction began in 1957, a testament to human ingenuity against the formidable backdrop of the Alps. The project was championed by engineers like Carlo Semenza and later his son-in-law, Giorgio Giacchino, who saw it as the pinnacle of their careers. But even before the first concrete pour, whispers of unease began to circulate. The valley walls, particularly the northern face of Mount Toc, flanking the proposed reservoir, were known to be geologically unstable. Local shepherds and residents, attuned to the land, spoke of ancient landslides, subtle shifts, and fissures in the rock. These were not just old wives' tales. Geologists hired by SOD had also voiced concerns, noting the complex stratigraphy and evidence of past colossal movements on the mountainside. As the dam neared completion in the early 1960s, these whispers grew louder, transforming into ominous rumblings. In 1960, a major landslide occurred on the south bank of the reservoir, sending 700,000 cubic meters of rock into the water. While thankfully not catastrophic, it was a profound warning shot. Engineers studied the event, but the company's commitment to the project, its immense financial investment, and the pride associated with such a monumental undertaking seemed to blind many to the escalating danger. Some officials, including the managing director Alberico Biadini, downplayed the risks, prioritizing the dam's operational status and the profits it promised. The reservoir began filling in February 1960, and almost immediately, the northern flank of Mount Toc began to show signs of accelerated movement. Cracks appeared on roads, trees tilted at alarming angles, and small tremors became more frequent. Geologists like Leopold Müller warned explicitly that filling the reservoir could destabilize the entire mountainside, predicting a catastrophic first slide that could generate a massive wave. His dire predictions were met with a mix of skepticism and a dangerous overconfidence in engineering solutions. The company conducted a small-scale model test, which, while showing a significant wave, was later revealed to be misinterpreted or deliberately understated. The sheer weight of the water, it was argued by the company, would act as a buffer, preventing a major slide. They were tragically, horrifyingly wrong. The stage was set, not for a triumph of engineering, but for an unparalleled disaster born from the hubris of man challenging nature, and refusing to listen to its dire warnings. By September 1963, the situation at Vajont was critical, almost beyond comprehension. The northern slope of Mount Toc, a colossal block of rock measuring over 2 kilometers long and 1.5 kilometers wide, was no longer merely shifting, it was actively sliding. The movement, initially measured in centimeters per month, had accelerated to several centimeters per day. Cracks on the mountainside gaped wider, and the reservoir itself was exhibiting bizarre behavior. Water levels fluctuated erratically, and strange rumblings emanated from the depths. The ominous creaking and groaning sounds were audible to workers and residents in the valley, a terrifying symphony of an impending geological collapse. Despite these undeniable signs, the company continued its ill-fated attempts to manage the crisis. They repeatedly lowered and raised the reservoir water level, hoping to stabilize the sliding mass, a strategy that many geologists now believe exacerbated the problem by alternately lubricating and drying the fault lines. Engineers, including Francesco Sensadoni, the chief engineer on site, knew the situation was dire. One young Italian engineer, Tina Merlin, who had reported on the local villagers' fears for years, continued to raise the alarm, her warnings dismissed as alarmist or politically motivated. The people in the small, picturesque towns nestled in the valley below the dam, like Longarone, Casso, and Urto, lived in a state of growing dread, their pleas for evacuation largely ignored by authorities who insisted the dam was safe, a symbol of national pride. Then came the evening of October 9, 1963. The air was heavy, thick with a sense of foreboding. Rain had been falling steadily for days, saturating the already unstable mountain. The movement rate of Mount Toc had surged dramatically, now measured at over 20 centimeters an hour. Inside the control room at the dam, engineers watched their instruments with growing terror, helpless as the meters confirmed their worst fears. At approximately 10:39 p.m., a deep, guttural roar ripped through the valley. It was the sound of an entire mountain tearing itself apart. In a horrifying instant, an estimated 270 million cubic meters of rock, soil, and forest, an area equivalent to about 200 soccer fields, detached from Mount Toc. The immense landslide plunged into the reservoir at speeds estimated between 90 to 110 kilometers per hour. The impact was cataclysmic. The sheer volume and velocity of the descending mass created an unimaginable displacement of water. A colossal wave, estimated to be up to 250 meters high, erupted from the reservoir. This wasn't a slow-moving flood, it was an inland tsunami, a liquid avalanche of immense power. One part of this monstrous wave surged upstream, completely engulfing and obliterating the villages of Urto and Casso, though many residents in higher parts survived due to the wave's path. But the other, far more devastating section, surged over the top of the Vajont Dam itself, a concrete wall designed to contain water, now overwhelmed by it. The dam, incredibly, held firm against the unimaginable force, but the wave didn't stop there. It cascaded down into the valley below, funneling into the narrow gorge towards the unsuspecting towns. In less than 7 minutes, the 70-meter-high wall of water, mixed with mud, rocks, and debris, slammed into Longarone and its surrounding hamlets. The force was so immense that entire buildings, bridges, and even the very ground beneath them were scoured clean. The vibrant life of these communities, generations of history, vanished in a blink, leaving behind only a desolate, muddy wasteland. The roaring silence that followed was the grim testament to an apocalypse witnessed by few, but felt by all. The morning after, a horrifying dawn broke over the Vajont Valley. What was once a picturesque landscape of charming villages nestled amidst rolling hills was now an unrecognizable tableau of utter devastation. The powerful tsunami had literally scoured the valley floor, leaving behind only mud, pulverized debris, and the skeletal remains of trees. Longarone, a town of nearly 2,000 souls, had been wiped off the map, replaced by a flat, muddy expanse stretching for kilometers. The only remaining structures were the dam itself, an ironic, towering sentinel still standing against the ravaged landscape, and a few scattered buildings on higher ground. Rescue efforts began immediately, but hope was a scarce commodity. The scale of the catastrophe was so immense, the destruction so complete, that identifying victims was an almost impossible task. Body parts were found miles downstream, carried by the receding waters. Over 1,910 people perished in the disaster, with many hundreds more never recovered, simply absorbed into the mud and debris. Among the dead were entire families, generations wiped out in a single, terrifying instant. The sheer number of unidentifiable victims led to the creation of mass graves, a grim testament to the speed and violence of the tragedy. The psychological trauma for survivors was profound, haunted by the images, the sounds, and the unanswerable questions of why. In the years that followed, the search for answers turned into a desperate quest for justice. The initial investigations quickly pointed towards human error, negligence, and a callous disregard for human life. The scientific warnings, the geological instability of Mount Toc, and the escalating signs of movement had all been documented and largely ignored by SOD and later by ENEL, the state-owned electricity company that had nationalized SOD just months before the disaster. Trials began, focusing on key figures within the company and government officials responsible for oversight. The legal proceedings dragged on for years, marked by complex technical testimony and emotional appeals. Ultimately, several engineers and directors were found guilty of multiple manslaughter and culpable disaster, though sentences were relatively light compared to the scale of the tragedy. The managing director, Alberico Biadine, and chief engineer, Francesco Sensadoni, were among those convicted. Their conviction, however, brought little solace to the survivors who had lost everything. The Vajont Dam disaster stands as a chilling monument to the perils of hubris and the catastrophic consequences of prioritizing profit and progress over safety and scientific counsel. It exposed profound flaws in engineering practices, geological assessment, and governmental oversight. The dam itself, remarkably intact, remains today, a silent, stark reminder of the events of that fateful night. The reservoir behind it, however, has never been refilled, its waters replaced by the massive, permanent landslide. The tragedy led to significant changes in dam safety regulations and risk assessment globally, emphasizing the critical importance of respecting geological realities and listening to dissenting scientific voices. Yet, even decades later, the shadow of Vajont lingers, a potent warning that humanity, in its quest to conquer nature, must never underestimate its power, nor silence the warnings that whisper of impending doom. The valley slowly heals, but the scars, both on the landscape and in the collective memory, will forever remain.